You know, they've got these websites out there that, like malepoop.com, that send dog poop to people. And my thought is that if Goldman Sachs is so smart at turning junk into commoditized mortgage obligations and all these other flora and fauna of the financial engineering sphere, turn this dog poop into $100 or $200 or $300 billion worth of dog poop collateralized mortgage obligations, which I'm sure that they'll try to do it. If you send them dog poop, I'm sure they will try to turn it into a dog poop.
Hey, they took your program and tried to make a commodity out of terror attacks. Remember that?
The policy analysis market was based on my technology, as I've said on your show before. John Poindexter created the policy analysis market, a prediction market, to try to predict terrorist attacks. He used my virtual specialist technology, and I wrote about it in the Financial Times saying this is only going to encourage terror attacks. And here's something else interesting economically going forward. You know, they're going to start trading box office futures contracts on the Cantor Exchange. So if you want, like, Indiana Jones Part 6, you can buy and sell futures based on the movie coming out in a year or 2 years from today. So naturally, what you're going to see is two things. Number one, studios are going to manipulate the prices on competing studios' projects. So you see market manipulation in the box office futures contract to try to change people's perception of movies before they're released. And number two, within 24 months, they're going to need a bailout.
And they're going to be rigging when movies come out to rig that.
Well, I think that, you know, Hollywood has gotten a free ride during this whole breakdown of society in America. Where are these Hollywood producers and Hollywood stars? If you look at a movie, a TV show, for example, like Entourage on HBO, you've got these punks in Hollywood making $500,000 a day, giving each other $250,000 cars as presents, and they portray this life that people watching that, it must be like, you know, mental crack on your head that you want to just run to Hollywood immediately. Meanwhile, what is that industry doing to support this economy as a whole? Absolutely nothing. They're probably the most irresponsible industry in America today. You know, all this Enron accounting that we talk about and all of the high-powered corporate fraud and banking fraud we talk about, it had a name back in the 70s and 80s. They used to call it Hollywood accounting. Now, Hollywood accounting has become the Globe's accounting methodology, where they book profits today and they defer losses in perpetuity. That's what Hollywood accounting is about, and that's what all these banks are now doing. If they make a gain today speculating with our money, they book it today as a profit and pay themselves a bonus. If they lose money, they keep it on their books for 20, 30, 40 years, and they package it as a loan, and they trade it with each other in perpetuity, and nobody ever captures that loss. So they can't lose. And that is draining the economy of much-needed capital, which is causing unemployment.
And what else they do, as you know, but people won't know, like, let's say you're part of a film, you're supposed to get a percentage. They always factor that in a pool into losses, so they never pay the underlings. They never pay the little people that are involved in any ownership. It's just all a criminal mafia organization.
Well, part of the casino gulag model is you're willing to work for free. And in Los Angeles, of course, you get a shot at working at an agency or something. You're willing to work for nothing for a year or two. But now they're applying that to the car companies and pharmaceutical companies, and everyone is now being asked to work for nothing for a year or two, or go on furlough for a year or two. And they don't want to pay anyone anything anymore.
But Warren Buffett gets $98 billion of our tax money and is called a genius because he gave most of his other money to eugenics.
Well, Buffett is, unfortunately, this scandal is not reflecting well on the Oracle from Omaha, I'm afraid, because if you look at his statements and the timing of his statements and the fact that he loaned money to Goldman Sachs and they pay him 10% on that money. The American citizen loans Goldman Sachs money and they get nothing. He's got a warrant to convert stock at 115. The stock's now trading, I didn't check today, but over 140 or something like that. He's already $2 billion in the black on his loan.
Keiser, stay there. Not a break.
The New World Order beast is genetically modifying your food, mixing vegetables with animals, and now experimenting with viruses. Without a long-term food solution, you will have just two options: starve, surrender. All canned food supplies will eventually run out. What then? Grow your own healthy food and feed your family forever. SurvivalistSeeds.com is now the nation's largest bulk heirloom seed company, and it's owned by a real patriot, Big John Lipscomb. You can now have an infinite amount of healthy vegetables like a watermelon, a bundle of carrots, or tomatoes for a little more than a penny each. SurvivalistSeeds.com. And now you can go into business with Big John at SurvivalistSeeds.com by becoming an affiliate. See his link at SurvivalistSeeds.com.
All right, we've got Max Keiser for 15, 20 minutes or so more. Really always great to have him on with us. You can go to MaxKeiser.com and find out about all the different TV shows and the different work he does, the great articles he writes, the little videos he also posts with some of my favorites when he just shoots in his house. MaxKeiser.com. I'm Alex Jones. Our website, of course, is Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. I want to go to calls, but earlier we were joking around some, but a point that Max made that is so central is that this is like rust. This is entropy. This is, the frog gets asked by the scorpion, take me across the river, and the frog says, you'll sting and kill me, and the scorpion says, no, I won't, I promise. And so the frog gives him a ride across. On the other side, the scorpion stings him, and as the frog's dying, he says, why'd you do that to me? He says, I'm a scorpion. There's always going to be evil, corrupt people and groups and piratical organizations. And they convince the public that evil doesn't exist if it's in a fancy suit. It only exists if it's some grungy homeless person or something. And so because we don't think old, bald-headed men in $5,000 suits can be evil, when that's actually some of the most evil people, they could just run wild a free hand. They've openly set up a police state. They're openly telling us we have no rights in this country. They're openly trying to consolidate and keep the gains they've gotten, ill-gotten, and expand them. And it really does, as Einstein said, the most dangerous and worst people in this world are not the evil people. It's the good people that know it and do nothing. And, of course, Thomas Jefferson said the only thing that evil men and tyrants seem to flourish is that good men and women do nothing. And it's only going to get worse unless we stand up and recognize this is evil and stop rationalizing. So Max made a great point there, and I more and more realize that is the fact. You look in the mirror, that's who caused this. We caused this. We got to fix it. And the enemy, the parasites, are going to fight us. They think they deserve all this now. Usually evil is sneaking around and circuitous. Now it's out in the open like King Kong going, I rule you. Ugh. And we got to say, okay, you want to fight, you're going to get one. Let's go ahead and talk to Doug in Florida. You're on the air with Max Keiser and Alejandro Jones. Go ahead, Doug.
Hey, Alex, the first thing I wanted to say is I'm a long-time listener, real big fan, first-time caller.
Welcome.
I have probably what is the only financial portal in the world that I know of that carries Prison Planet headlines every day in our financial portal. And
okay, give us your plug. Just go ahead and plug it and then ask a question to Max Keiser.
Okay, it's markettoolbox.com, and you can download the desktop portal there. But I also took your advice and started my own show, and I do a show every Sunday night. And in the 2 hours prior to going live with our market commentary, I stream sometimes. I did the Obama deception. I did some.
Brother, that's fine. And listen, I can have a little of this plugging etiquette, but it takes over the show. You better ask. Do you have a question for Max Keiser?
Yes, I do. My question for Max is, who I'm also a big fan of, is that at the end of last year when they changed the rules when you buy gold futures, so now you have your choice of getting two kinds of paper instead of the gold, what do you think will happen when the people wake up and realize the gold's not really there?
That's a good question. Max Keiser, thank you for the call,
Good
Doug.
question, very good question, and I wanted to get into gold. And this is on your show, Alex. I talked about this last year. I was anticipating a run on the COMEX, and that people would expect their physical delivery of gold, and we would break the stranglehold. Because what happens is the reason there is no gold there is because they've created more futures contracts than there is physical bullion. It's called naked short selling. They create futures contracts on gold that doesn't exist, and then they sell those contracts in the open market. And of course, when you sell something, the price goes down. But they're selling stuff that they themselves have created, a futures contract based on bullion that's not there. And they've traded millions and millions of ounces of bullion that doesn't exist. So the caller makes the good point, is that when finally there is a rush, and for the first time, Alex, the central banks around the world are now becoming net buyers of gold. And they've always traditionally been the biggest movers in the gold market. And this is going to give some support finally. And, yeah, it's going to bust wide open. You'll see gold trade at an inflation-adjusted price, probably of $2,000 an ounce. And you got to be ready for that, because that's part of...
Max, go ahead. Okay, we just lost him. So let's go ahead and get him back on. That's the issue with using IP computer systems. Or it's France. That kind of stuff happens. So let's get him back on. While we're waiting to get Max Keiser back on, let's get Dan on from Texas. Dan, in Texas, you're on the air.
I just wanted to ask him about commercial real estate, if he thought it was going to cause a money grab collapse and death of paper assets. But I think that's kind of what he was talking about.
Yeah, commercial real estate collapse?
Yeah, I've subscribed to the half-past human things,